Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Lead Her podcast, and we have an incredible guest with us who hugely inspired me in so many ways, personally, physically, professionally. She's an absolute badass, so she ticks all the Lead Her boxes. And it's just someone that I know is going to have so much gold to share with all of us today. And I know we're going to be feeling super inspired to go out and chase our goals as well. So I just want to welcome the incredible Claire O'Sullivan to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Leanne. I wasn't sure if that was me you were talking about. That is a serious intro that I hope I can live up to today.
Absolutely. And Claire, would you be happy just to give us a little introduction to who you are, what you do?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I am honored to be here. I was telling you last week that I have binged all the episodes up to now. So I am loving the podcast so far. So Claire O'Sullivan is my name. I am an online coach. I help driven individuals live happier, healthier, and more fulfilling lives. That has been my mission over the last 3 years. Prior to that, I was working as a physio for a few years. I did a few years in the NHS and a year at home in Ireland as well. I'm Irish by background. I lived most of my life in Ireland. Then I spent about 4 or 5 years in London. I'm currently based in Dubai. And yeah, I suppose that's a little bit about me. Currently full-time working as an online coach. So that takes up a lot of my time at the moment, and it is my passion.
Amazing. I love that. And what I wanted to do today was to take you back in time to where this all started, because me and you have got a quite similar journey where we used to be proper party animals. We were chatting about this last week, and I was thinking, God, Leanne back then would have absolutely loved Claire, like back then as well. We would have had a really good time together, but
it's a pity we didn't meet back then.
I know, but it's just that way that I know you were quite similar to me. You were kind of going out drinking a lot, living that kind of. Were you in London then?
In Ireland a bit, I guess, college kind of life in Ireland, and then that kind of carried over to London a little bit as well.
Yeah, just that kind of lifestyle. And what I was wondering, was there like a real kind of turning moment for you when you were like, right, enough's enough, I can't keep living this way, it's not making me happy? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah. So like, it's funny when you say, was there a moment? Because there actually, for me, there was a bit of a moment. I remember, so like life in general, like I was pretty happy with a lot of things. I was studying in university to be a physio. I think I was coming towards the end of fourth year in university, actually. And I was always like seriously active, seriously sporty, all the way up since I was like 5 years old. I was big into ladies Gaelic football. And I played sport like an awful lot to a high enough level. But then just with the kind of party life in college, I was also drinking a lot when I wasn't playing sport. And like just the, like, not, I wouldn't say I was like big time, but always at the weekends, and we'd probably go out a few times a week, like during the week and things as well. And then I guess like just over time, I kind of gained a bit of weight, and I didn't really know how to lose it. I kind of tried a few different things. And I felt like I was really active, really sporty, but was still carrying weight for some reason. And I guess I just didn't really feel like I like looked like the person who was as active and as sporty as I was. And I couldn't really understand it. I was trying to lose weight. I was trying some different crappy fad diets and things like that, and nothing was really working, and I just didn't really understand it. And then I was following some people also on Instagram. Instagram wasn't that old like at the time, but I started following people and following things around like training and things. And there was this coach who was a year below me in university, and there was one, I'd been following his stuff for a while, and then there was one bank holiday. I think I'd been out the Friday, the Saturday, and the Sunday, and this is a bank holiday Monday. And this is at home, and I was like, oh my God, like this has got to change. I remember that weekend I was like just not feeling comfortable going out in my clothes. I think I had created the habit of like drinking a lot on nights out to be able to escape from how I was feeling, because when you're drunk you don't really care. So then I was like, this has to change. So then I reached out to a coach, and that started an incredible transformational journey for me, where I finally got the help and the information and support that I needed to, I suppose, transform my body and to finally get power back over the thing that I felt quite powerless to. So then I became like super interested in training, super interested in nutrition because of the positive impact it had on my life, to finally like feel confident in my body, like feel good in my skin, feel good in my clothes. And I suppose like I kind of finished college and went on working as a physio. And then I also went on to study nutrition and study personal training alongside that. So the moment was that bank holiday when I felt like crap and I reached out to the coach, and like at the time I didn't realize, but that was a massive catalyst for change for me.
Yeah, I love that. And it's just one moment, isn't it? One decision that was there for a little while, and then you took that route, and like, look where you are now. It's crazy.
It's mental. And at the time, obviously, I wasn't thinking that was a profound moment. At the time, that was really crap. Like I was like feeling like shit. I was hungover. I was in a dressing gown, and I sent this email, not thinking anything more of it, not even realizing if I would like be able to lose weight or any of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a massive moment for change for me. And I suppose it came from probably being in a crappy place and being really frustrated and really overwhelmed and really like a bit sad, to be honest, like feeling like quite unhappy in my body, which makes me sad to look back on now, but it was like obviously a real positive thing looking back.
Amazing. And one thing I'm interested in is like, did you have anyone who was a little bit like, oh, just come out and drink, and they maybe wanted like the old version of Claire, or was everyone quite supportive of what you were doing?
So I didn't tell anybody. Like when I
Okay.
embarked on that journey of change, I did not tell anybody.
That's quite
So
common. We have quite a lot of members that don't tell anyone what they're doing until they get to a certain level.
yeah, and do you know what? My friend, like I had like really, really amazing friends at the time, but we had the kind of relationship that were like a lot of our friendships were built on like abuse, like as in like having the crack, like and like what we would say pulling the piss out of each other, like. So like nothing was off the table in terms of like we would abuse each other for anything. And hands off, I was one of the worst ones like for doing that. So and this was something that I was obviously really insecure about, and I didn't have I don't think I had the ability to articulate it at the time, to articulate how I felt. It was too painful, I would say, at the time as well. I also didn't really think anything would come of it. So like what was the point in saying anything? So I didn't really tell anyone, just kind of it felt a little bit maybe easier and safer to work away on things in the background myself. And do you know what? It also came towards like it kind of was happening at a time when we were doing our final year projects. So like for physio, so like it was very much a study heavy time. So there wasn't as much going out at the time. And then we actually graduated from college when I was like kind of just after starting my journey. So then I was like I was at home and I was working a lot. And I was also working as a physio on Sundays for games and things. And I did take my career quite seriously. So I'd never turn up to a game with drinking me or anything like that. So I kind of got away with things. I didn't have to make excuses, or I wasn't being pulled out because I had good reasons.
Okay, that's amazing to know. And I guess like a lot of people do that. They keep it private until they get to a certain level, and then people start asking them questions. But I think it's one of those ones when you do go out and you say, oh, I'm not drinking because of this, and you give a reason, that then everyone's like, oh, forget about it, it's fine. Whereas if you just go out and you just say, I'm not drinking today, people have nothing to pick at it. Like, don't diet, you don't need to, you look amazing the way you are. You were doing it for you.
Totally. And I suppose like I know that if I told my friends, actually they would have been seriously supportive, and they maybe they would have been the kind of thing of, oh, go on, drink, like that kind of thing. But I guess I don't actually ever remember a moment like that. And if I was ever going out and not wanting to drink, like I'd probably just drive and bring the keys. And it's like no one asks you to drink if you have your car keys. So I think that's a great tip for anyone who wants to be able to do that. And we should never need an excuse or need a reason. But I do think that like if you're at the start of your journey and you're just not comfortable with articulating that or sharing that just now, having what you consider is a valid excuse, not that you need an excuse, it's not necessarily a bad thing until you feel like happy to articulate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And a lot of the time you end up going out and people start drinking anyway, and you still have an absolute amazing time and you don't have the hangover and everything after it anyway. But no, that's great. That's awesome. And did you start to notice, like, when you felt fitter and you seen your body changing, like, did that give you more confidence being a physio and give you more confidence in relationships, or did you notice it adding into other aspects of life?
I don't really think it changed like me as a physio necessarily, as in like I like I'd always be someone who'd be like kind of confident in my knowledge and things like that. So I don't think it changed me as a physio. I definitely think it changed me as a person overall. I think I had more confidence. I felt way better in my clothes. I felt confident in my clothes for the first time. It definitely helped me get fitter. Like, I was not carrying around 2 stone that I had been carrying around previously. I guess it definitely made me more confident in relationships. Like, when you feel good in yourself and you feel good in your clothes, and you're not like you're not self-conscious in that sense, I feel like it's an extra thing you kind of don't have to think about in comparison to if you are feeling self-conscious in yourself. And I think when you're feeling a bit self-conscious in yourself, you think a lot more what other people are thinking, and you're like, what are they going to think of this, and what are they going to think of that? But I think if you do feel confident, like, it kind of clears your head of some of those things, which I think is nice.
Yeah, and I guess, was it nice for you to finally see the results for the work and effort you were putting in?
Totally. Like, I think I really did like transform my body in the sense that, so we kind of left college that time because college was over, we had graduated, and like I was just after starting that time, and then we went back in, I think it was October, we had a meetup, and we hadn't seen each other for like 6 months, and that was like my big journey of change, and everyone was like, what have you been doing? Like, and I guess that gave me a lot of confidence. I remember I was going to meet the girls, and I hadn't been out like that summer because I was actually working like 6-7 days a week. And I didn't have clothes to wear because not like all of my clothes were like 2 sizes too big for me. And all I'd been wearing was gym clothes and tracksuits and physio clothes. And I was working in a cafe at the time as well. And like, I had to stop on the way up to Limerick where I was meeting the girls to buy a whole new outfit because nothing fitted me, and I was like, this is mental. I think that was a big moment of realization for me as well.
Yeah, amazing. And then that transitioned into this new career and this new path you went down. So how many years? 4 years at college, uni, studying to be a physio?
Yeah.
And then we started to realize, like, the effect that this all had on you, that then you thought, I want to show other people that they can do this too.
I guess, but not so much for a while. So I actually went on to work like for 4 years as a physio. Then maybe like 2 or 3 years after that journey, I then studied nutrition and studied personal training myself because I was always interested in it. And it wasn't that like when I went on that journey, it changed, that I stopped kind of drinking and things then. So then I went to London, and then I was drinking a lot again, but while being in this new body that I felt really good in. So it wasn't that things kind of changed then. And I was like really enjoying life over in London for the few years. But at the same time, like, I was really liking physio actually. But I've always had a bit of a thirst for like knowledge and for understanding more. So then I was like, you know what, I just love nutrition, I'm gonna go study that. And so I did that in about 2019, I think. Studied a nutrition course online and loved it. And while I was studying that, it was like Martin McDonald's nutrition course. And in the first lecture, he was like, the best way for you guys to learn now is going to be to try and teach other people while you're learning. So then I set up my like social media account and started posting nutritional content as I was going through the lectures. So then I guess my friends kind of started to realize that, oh, like, Claire's studying nutrition or whatever, and they were following me. And then my friends would start to ask me questions around nutrition, and then that kind of kept going. So then when I qualified as a nutritionist, I actually, like, on the side of working as a physio, took on a few of like my friends initially, and then like a few clients, just from a nutrition point of view. And then I was like, after a while, I was like, heck it, I may as well like do the PT qualification as well. So then I went and did that as well. And obviously there's a lot of crossover between that and physio. And then I did those 2 courses, not thinking I was going to use them really. It was only then, like, over time, people were like, oh, like, could you like help me with nutrition? I was like, grand, I will, yeah. So then I kind of started doing it a little bit, like, just kind of for fun, really. Never thinking I was going to leave physio. And because I did really enjoy it. So then COVID hit, And then life as a physio changed a lot, and the service I was working in got kind of pulled because I was working a lot in stroke, rehabbing stroke patients in their own homes. That wasn't possible when COVID hit. So then we kind of got pulled back into the hospitals. Hospitals were a bit crazy. I didn't really enjoy it. It was really stressful. My 2 Irish friends left London. So then I was like, oh, wow, this is different. And I was after meeting Tommy over in London. We met over there. We hadn't been together that long. When my friends left, I was in the house with them, and then I was the only one left renting a house in London. Tommy ended up in his own, like on his own in a house in London on like a different side of London. Then we were like, oh God. And there was a time during COVID where like we couldn't see each other because we were isolated from each other. And it was like I was very much on my own in London then with no friends in my house. And then I was like, I don't really enjoy this anymore. So then I decided to leave physio, and I was like, I had decided to move in with Tommy at the time. So then I moved into his house in West London, in East London, and rent was really cheap where he was living. So I was like, do you know what? The few clients now will keep me going while I figure out what I'm going to do.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. So I didn't know it actually all kind of happened through COVID. And I think when we first met, you were just moving out of that London flat with the girls. I remember you were saying about your flat and thinking of moving in with Tommy, and that was all kind of happening. But yeah, it's really good that you had that as something, another interest. And I think it's quite nice that you've just kind of kept doing it on the side out of interest and letting it just naturally grow from there.
Totally. And you know what? If COVID hadn't hit and the job that I was doing hadn't changed so much, I might have not like taken that jump, like, because I was like enjoying life and quite comfortable, and like we had like great fun over in London with my friends, and like if they hadn't left and things, like I would have been probably happy doing what I was doing. So I guess everything happens for a reason in a sense, but it was like I could have never planned that ever.
And sometimes that's the best thing though, isn't it? Just to kind of roll with things and just see where it's going to go. Because sometimes we think, oh God, if like that's so scary, that goal, if I was to go and chase that, and they think of the end point, whereas sometimes it's like just go with it and it'll all kind of naturally come together for you because it's a passion and it's a love, and what's for you will happen for you, and you'll make the best out of it either way. You would either still have this fantastic London life that you were happy with, or building this new machine that you've been building since COVID, which is amazing.
Totally. Funny story actually. So when I it was like, God, it was late July 2020. Yeah, late July 2020. And one of my friends had left London. I can't remember. I think maybe the two of them had left actually at this stage. And there was this night I was in bed and I like could not sleep. Or I think I woke up at something like 2 a.m. in the morning. And I would usually get up for work at like 6 a.m. or 6:30 or something. I used to cycle to work at the time during the pandemic and things. And I woke up and I was like thinking all night, and I was like, I'm going to quit my job tomorrow. Like, so this was like during a night I decided this, and I woke up in the morning. I was like, I'm handing in my notice. Like, I don't want to do it anymore. And like this was not a thought the prior day. So I can't remember when maybe I'd been like chatting to Tommy like 2 days beforehand or something. So then I voice noted him before I left the house. I used to cycle like an hour to work. So I voice noted him before I left the house. I was like, I've come to the decision, I'm handing in my notice. And I got to work anyway. And then I was like changing into my uniform, and I just listened to his voice note. Or I think he rang me, and I had a few missed calls from him, and he was like, are you sure? Like, where did you come to this decision? And I was like, I don't know. I just know that like I don't want to do it anymore. So then I did it that day. And I was like, I actually, looking back, I think it was intuition. Like something just told me I had to do it. Like, and it was like the impulse was like so strong, and there wasn't reason or logic behind it. And it's like a few times in my life, I have like gotten a glimpse of like a really strong impulse like that, and it's been the right idea. So like looking back now, I kind of realized that it was.
Yeah, I love when you can look back though, when you're like, that was supposed to happen. You had that pull, because that reminds me of when I came out of university. So I studied criminology, And I had the thought of I would join the police after university and go into that role. And Joe's dad was a police officer, and we were on the phone and we were chatting about applications and everything. And I just remember just like being in the car and being like, it's not what I want to do anymore. And I had no reason for it. I didn't know what else I was going to do yet. And I didn't even know I was going to be a coach yet. But there was just a part of me that was just like, Leanne, this is not for you. Like, don't do it. And I didn't proceed with it. It's strange, but very similar to you. It was just like this flick of like, no, it's not for me. And then
Gosh,
came in after that. Yeah. So I think it's really important for people like listen to that little voice if you do have something like that and sit on it. Don't need to act on it right away like us, but it's like listening to them, having that awareness that there's maybe some other options out there for you that you can explore.
totally. And I actually think that it's only looking back that I recognize it maybe as like a bit of intuition, but at the time I didn't. But it was just, it felt so strong. And it was like in my head, it was like, there was nothing like, it's only looking back, I'm like, there was nothing logical about that decision. And I'm like normally a logical enough person. And it was just like in my head, there was no other option for some reason. And like, I actually questioned it a little bit looking back. I'm like, what was going on? But it's like in my head that day, that was like what I had to do for some reason.
Yeah, and not just yourself, but other people have told me that as well. The same thing where they're like, if I was to go back now, I probably maybe would question it more, but at the time you did it. And I think you can't change it because it has led into so many amazing things now. So
Absolutely.
for you with your business, you've built an incredible business and you're helping so many people. And what I love about you as well is like with your Instagram and stuff, you always make everything really simple and calm and clear. And I think we all need that when there's just so much noise on Instagram and all these different diets and all this crazy, exciting, new, fancy stuff to do. Everyone needs this calm version of Claire, which I love, but also built it to a level where you have brought in your partner, which is incredible. And you're both, like you mentioned earlier, you're now living over in Dubai. So like for you, was that ever a goal as well? Or have you ever had any pinch me moments of like we're living this life, this is incredible? You ever been really proud of yourself for that?
So do you know what? I probably don't like actually like it's something that I would like to get better at, but we don't really like, I don't sit and reflect enough. Like I'm always like, I'm very much kind of like thinking about the next thing I want to do, or you know, like I absolutely like, I love everything that we are doing, but I'm always thinking like, oh, like I want to do this better and I want to improve this inside our program. But do you know the kind of the biggest maybe like moments of reflection for me where we've done 2 live events with our clients. Obviously during COVID, everything was very much online. January gone, and then the September before that, we did our first 2 live events. And they were the moments that I was like, oh my gosh, there's like, so like there's like 30 people who have traveled here to be with us today. There's a lot of people who couldn't make it, but there's 30 people, like real life people whose lives we are impacting in a positive way. And it's like those moments, I was like, gave me the biggest rush of adrenaline that I've ever felt ever. And I'm like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. Like this actually, like in my heart, feels like my purpose and my mission in life. And I've never actually been so sure that I'm on the right path and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I can genuinely say that now. And like just like seeing people change their lives gives me the biggest buzz I've ever had in my life. And just to be a part of that journey is so incredibly special.
Yeah, I love that. And also like changing you and Tommy's life as well. Like you have done so well for you both. And how do you, with obviously working with Tommy, and I know you've got other people that help within your business as well, but like you both live together and work together. And me and Joe are the same. A lot of people are like, how do you guys do it? Like, how do you have that barrier between work and relationships and still keep intimacy there without having this constant work in the head? So is there anything you guys do to kind of keep those boundaries and keep your relationship strong?
So, like obviously, when Tommy started working with me, I guess that was maybe, was it 2021? I think like maybe May 2021. So we've been working together for like maybe a year and a half now. So that was probably one of the scariest decisions that I made inside the business and that we made together as well, because he was working in a job full time in London. Tommy was a tractor mechanic in East London. And I guess like I was starting to take on more clients and things were starting to get busy. And then I was kind of feeling like a little bit like capped with the amount of work that I could do or the amount of hours that I could work. So I was like, I'm going to have to like get some help here. And like Tommy, can't remember the exact timelines of things, but Tommy started studying to be an S&C coach because he has a massive interest in training as well. And he wasn't loving his job at the time. So he was thinking he'd like to like have some other interests. And then it got to this point where I was like, well, I'm going to have to take on someone. Like, do you want to do it? And then there was like a lot of conversations. And then he started helping me alongside his job. And then it got to the point where it was like, well, we have to make a decision on things. And that was one of the scariest things, definitely. And that did change our relationship a lot because it was different when so we started our relationship both working jobs, see each other in the evenings. You've so much to talk about because you're living such different lives. And then we were like in this apartment together in London in COVID, not able to go anywhere or see anyone for like a whole year working together. But like luckily we get on really well together, obviously. And we're both very kind of most of the time laid back kind of characters. So we wouldn't really fight or anything. Like we'd have arguments, but we never we get on very well together and we understand how each other work. So like working together has actually been so good. And there's definitely been more positives than negatives, like way more positives than negatives. Like we've got to travel that bit more together. Like we get to decide our own hours and things. It's definitely hard keeping like relationship life and work life separate. So I think that's something that we are continuing to work on, and I feel like we will be continuing to work on. We do try and set boundaries and be like, okay, from this time we're switching off, or like let's go and do this and not like let's not talk about work for these hours. But it's a constant like, okay, like remember we said we weren't talking about this kind of thing. So it is a work in progress. And it is hard. It's hard to switch from work mode to relationship mode. I feel like we have to do something to kind of change our state or change our environment to be able to do that. We need to like go out for a walk and like decompress from the day and then come back and be like in relationship mode kind of thing. It's hard like to switch between sometimes, but it's definitely a work in progress.
Yeah. And something I find like with myself and Joe, like we always feel like same as you, but I think it's really good that we both have a similar interest, and like Joe's so supportive and I know Tommy's so supportive as well, and you both have this mission and this thing that you both want to kind of do and build together. And I think that's so important. Like they always say, like behind every great man there's a great woman. And I feel like that's the same thing for us. It's like behind a great woman, you've got a great man. And I think it's so important. And it really, really helps with any kind of journey, whether it's a fitness journey or a career journey or a personal journey, is that you've got the right people behind you, because it really just does help you to continue to be better and to have that support and also understand each other. That, yeah, sometimes you need to work a wee bit more and do a wee bit more, but you also still make sure that you do get that wee bit of time together as well.
100%. And I feel like no one's going to understand more what we're going through than each other without even having to say it sometimes, which is nice. And like we obviously completely have each other's backs with everything. And I guess when it's like your business that maybe you've built up like from scratch, it's like it is like a little baby, like, and I guess I would only want like someone working there alongside me who I knew like valued it as much as I do. So I think that's very like, it's really reassuring, and it makes it easy to be able to like, like for us to be in the business together now rather than it having been like my business. So, and like it's cool getting to grow things together and getting to, I guess like we really get to share it, maybe more so than having to like tell someone a story where they don't really understand so much, which is nice.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I had something in my head there. I was thinking that we could go with this, was that, what was it? Will it come back to me? Can't remember. Totally gone. You made a really valid point. I was like, oh God, like, yeah, that's definitely something we could chat about a little bit more. Try and think.
Guaranteed it will come back like at some stage and you'll be like, oh,
I did that last time and I was like, no, that was something I really wanted to say. But yeah, no, I think it's really good, like with having like Tommy there as well. That's what I was going to say. So with having someone coming on to help, because I know this is something that a lot of really driven, ambitious women really, really struggle with, is asking for help or relying on others to do a good a job as us. And this can even be at the house, you know, you're like, you do all the washing because you can't be bothered someone doing it wrong and then you need to fix it all. But it's like all about delegating and getting help, because it probably made you a better partner, it probably made you a better business owner from getting help. So what was something that you were like, was that a hard thing for you to be like, right, okay, I'm going to get this help? And have you seen the benefits of it?
So I suppose it was definitely hard for me to relinquish control over certain things within the business, I guess. However, like Tommy is like very good at everything that he does and very thorough with everything that he does. So I guess when I could see that, then I was never actually scared of delegating anything. And I suppose I what I've actually learned is that I'm actually never scared of delegating things and relinquishing like control when it's the right person. So like Jen, who we were talking about last week, Jen was helping us inside our tribe. She was like helping us from a check-in point of view and doing some coaching. And like not once would I ever like worry about handing something off. Jean Lynch is our psychotherapist inside the tribe. Not once would I ever like feel nervous with that. Same with Tommy. It's like, I think if you have the right people, like I know that they can do things better than I can as well. And I don't think like me like having a perception that I can do things the best is just not true. And I've learned that it's not true. So like I feel like if I can actually give things off to people who are better than me at things, then that is only going to make things better. And I know that I have so much to learn. And yeah, I guess once it's the right person, I don't struggle with that. But if I felt like someone wasn't going to take care of the job or the task that I wanted done, then I would struggle with that. But I think maybe that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, no, great advice. Awesome. Because I know that is something that a lot of people do kind of struggle with. So it's finding the right people and knowing that you can trust them and that they're going to do it right. Awesome. And moving on, so kind of covered like the professional side of you. So like we're moving on a wee bit more and personal as well, with obviously you and Tommy, your relationship. But from you, from like a physical place just now, like we know you're going through a personal journey, and it's another thing I absolutely love with you, just sharing the honesty of like what you're going through just now, trying to regain your cycle. And I was just wondering, like, is that something that we can share a little bit more on today, like what you're working through? Because I feel like there's so many women that will listen to this podcast who have been through it or are currently there. I've even got friends in similar position, and I know it can be quite an isolating place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to give you, I guess, a little bit of the backstory. So last year, I decided I had signed up to my first marathon, and that was going to be in June. Started training. I was kind of like, I was running well the year before, and so actually it was only during lockdown I got into running, and because I was always mad into football and I would only run after a ball and never thought running a long distance was a good idea. But then there was no football during lockdown and there wasn't much else to do. So I got into running, and one of my friends in London was big into running as well. So I was running with her all the time. We decided to set a goal around running a half marathon, Caroline, myself and Tommy. And so we trained for that, and it was so much fun and we loved it. And then I set a goal around doing another half marathon on a day my clients were. So that was amazing. That was all in 2021. Then I decided I was going to do a marathon in 2022. So signed up to that at the end of 2021. Picked up an injury late in 2021. I was like, oh, Beckett. But then actually it went really well, and I trained for my first marathon in 2022, and decided at the same time, while going to train for my first marathon, I was going to do a cut and get as lean as I possibly could, thinking that that was all a good idea at the time. So I was like training quite hard in Dubai for the marathon, and like during the training for that. And then I'd also decided to do another marathon after I lost my cycle. And I was also focusing on getting quite lean. I did get quite lean. And obviously that was another stress in the body. I thought that I kind of lost my cycle because I was training too hard. So I decided that I would, I also came off the pill in February of that same year, which I thought might be having an impact on things. And I was kind of thinking that, oh, do you know, it's going to take me a bit of time anyway to get my cycle back after coming off the pill. So I guess that was kind of confusing things. And then I kind of thought I wasn't getting back because of that. And then I kind of realized that no, I'm still not getting it back. And then I thought, okay, maybe it's because I'm training so hard and running so much. So I decided to gain back some body fat in training for that second marathon. And then I kind of thought, okay, when I do that second marathon in October, that things will come back after that. And they still haven't come back now, being April, like 6 months after. So I've been steadily trying to gain back body fat. I have cut out running altogether since like January this year. Because I guess initially I thought I'd be okay to cut down running and cut down strength training. That hasn't been enough. So now I'm really like focusing on gaining back. I've gained like back over 10 kgs of body fat, like over 12 kgs of body fat. I'm not running at all. I'm strength training twice a week. And I'm only really starting to realize that this is actually something that's more serious than I thought it was.
Mhm.
And that has been challenging, as in like exercise is probably one of my favorite things to do and one of my best coping mechanisms, something that I just really loved and enjoyed. So it's been hard, like realizing I have to cut that out, cut that down and cut that out potentially. I guess like being in a certain physical shape was something that I identified with for the last good few years. Now I'm having to challenge my beliefs around that, which is uncomfortable. But I feel like it's teaching me a lot, and it's teaching me a lot about like who I am and how I identify as a person. So it's definitely challenging a lot of my beliefs. It's also hard as a coach when you feel like, okay, I should be in a certain physical shape, but actually like I've shown myself that pushing myself to those extremes was not so healthy. So I took things a little bit too far and put a lot of stress on myself. At that time as well, like there was also like I was also like running my own business and busy. There was also like some family stresses, like my dad went through a major surgery and things. So there was a lot of different things going on. I don't know exactly which one. I assume it's a combination of everything that has like meant that my body's under more stress than I ever realized.
Yeah, so like what's your kind of plan of action right now? Like are you just kind of, because like we said, like with you becoming a coach or you achieving these things, like it's trying not to think too far ahead and having, can you have set goals with this, or you just try to take yourself a week at a time and being patient and like you said, just kind of understanding yourself more just now in the meantime?
Yeah. So I'm just like trying to like minimize stresses in terms of training, in terms of not being in a calorie deficit, in terms of gaining back body fat, in terms of I'm not setting like I'm just not setting running goals. I'm not having a time frame for when I'm getting back to running. I'm taking it quite easy in the gym. I'm working on other things. I'm getting in more into meditation. I'm getting a better morning routine. I'm looking at just reducing stresses in any way that I can, like doing like working on a little bit more mindfulness and things. And yeah, I'm not setting performance goals at the moment. I can't wait until I can again. Like I love working towards things. That's me in my comfort zone. This is me out of my comfort zone now. However, I do feel like just sharing these things has been powerful for my clients, and it has like I guess it's opened the door for them to be able to say, look, like this is not going so well for me right now, and that's okay too. Same way as like this is not something I would have planned. This is not something I'm like exactly happy about, and we're all going to we're all going to come up against challenges like that. I do genuinely believe that this will make me a better coach, and it'll teach me a lot about myself as a person. And I guess like I'm kind of learning as well that like being a certain body fat percentage doesn't define you as a person. It doesn't change like who you are or how worthy you are or how you should value yourself. And I think that's an important lesson. And maybe that's part of the reason that this is happening to me as well, so that I do learn that lesson.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
No, you're so welcome. And I think like since I shared it actually on my social media, I actually only shared it when I kind of really accepted for myself that, okay, this is a thing, because I guess I was like continuously thinking, oh, it's just going to come back and it's going to come back and next month it's going to come back. And then I was like, oh no, it's not coming back. So I need to take more measures to help myself. And then when I did that, like more people were like saying to me, oh my God, the same thing happened to me. Oh my God, I'm going through the same thing. and it's kind of opened the door for that conversation to happen a little bit more. And I think that I'll be like extra mindful of not letting that happen to my clients. And if any of my clients are going through that, I'll know how to support them better.
Yeah, and definitely something to address maybe a little bit sooner than because it is every month, isn't it? It's like, oh, next month or next month. And like we said before this call today, time goes so fast that it's like, okay, maybe that's something for us to explore as soon as we can rather than waiting for the next month.
Fact. And like, if you had looked at me last year, like doing that marathon in Lisbon that you were at, like, it's like, okay, like doing a marathon, like the picture of health, but actually, like, and that's what I thought at the time too. I felt amazing. Like, I had no symptoms, like, of not being at my best, only that I didn't have my period. So just because maybe you look at someone, and you said that day as well that, like, you know, you were like wishing you could be doing that, but like, just because someone else is doing something doesn't mean everything's going perfect for them either. And you know, it's like, maybe like it's not always so great for us to compare our lives to what we see from someone else when you don't actually know what's going on like underneath the surface.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is hard, isn't it? Because normally when you do see people look really lean and you've not seen them in a while, you are like, oh wow, you look amazing. You always want to give people compliments and make them feel good, but there is always that side. It could be through stress, it could be through like so many different things. So it's hard, isn't it, just to always be cautious of everybody has their, I say this all the time, like everybody thinks everybody online is happy and life is good, but everybody's got their struggle. Everybody's got something that they're managing, and it's just trying to be kind to everyone, even if they're horrible and nasty to you. They're maybe having a bad day and taking out on you, and it's just being patient with everyone.
Totally. And we were chatting about that last week. Like, even you were saying yourself, like, you know, you were going through some struggles that, like, anytime I would have met you, like, we wouldn't have had a deep conversation maybe at the time, because there was like, there'd be people around, it was all fun times. So like, you don't really know like all the time. So I think like the lesson from it, like for anyone else as well, is like not to compare yourself to someone else because they're doing something or because it looks like they've got everything figured out, because I think we're all just like guessing as we go some of the time as well, and that's okay.
Yeah, and like I'm aware of our time, and there's one more person I wanted to bring up today, because you mentioned her last week when we were having a chat last week, and I just thought this could be a great way for us to kind of finish the podcast. Because if anyone's listening to this right now, like you can totally tell that you are just someone that is like, I'm just going to get on with it. I'm just going to crack on. I'm going to do it. I'm going to show up. I'm going to give it my best, and everything will be okay. And I remember saying to you, like, where did we get this mindset from? And do you want to share who's gave you that mindset?
Yeah. And I guess like maybe I like, this is just the way I am. I've taken it for granted. And I never would have thought much about it. But I guess when we were chatting last week about were we chatting about like self-confidence or self-belief? And I suppose I just feel like from a very young age, like my mother has been like a big influence on me, and like we were the best of friends growing up and everything. And she was like an incredible she was an incredible supporter and backer of mine every single step of the journey throughout my whole life. And I just feel like the lady has shown me so much unconditional love that I didn't like, I obviously wasn't able to label that like until like I was chatting to Jean, psychotherapist in our tribe. And I suppose like growing up, I was massive into football. My mom would take me here, there, everywhere, like would support me in absolutely everything that I was doing. Like if I was ever trying to do something, be it academically, be it sports wise, be it anything, like my mom was my biggest supporter, like always. And I think I was saying to you last week that if I like wanted to do something or thought I could do something, like my mom would think I could do it. Or if I told her I wanted to be president of Ireland, she would say yes, like amazing, how are we going to do this? I'll be there, I'll drive you here, I'll drive you there. And still to this day she's my biggest supporter. And I guess I never like maybe realized how much of an impact that has on a person, but I think that her having such belief in me gave me belief in myself and gave me confidence in myself. Like if from a really young age you question yourself and there is continuously someone there telling you you can do it. And I remember like doubting myself, like the Leaving Cert is the exam in Ireland, the big exam before you go to university. And I just remember like kind of like being quite stressed out. I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to get the points for physio or whatever. And like my mom would just be like, and I remember saying, oh mom, like I don't think I'm going to get it, and I don't want to repeat, like I don't want to repeat another year in school. And she would just be like reassuring me, telling me I could get it. And like even though it was like it was something that was hard to achieve, like no matter what it was, like I think that I just probably didn't realize like she was feeding me that message all of the time, not like just that was what she thought, that I could do anything. And it just made me not doubt myself so much then.
Yeah, I love that. And that's the one thing I was going to say, is there been that certain moment where she maybe has said something and it's maybe kind of stuck with you that we could share for everyone to listen to this, to be like, right, where can we learn from like Claire's mum? Is there anything that she's kind of said or an example she's gave that's in your head, maybe subconsciously, that you don't realize?
So do you know what? I don't even think it was what she said. I think it was her actions. So like I used to play like an awful lot of sport, and it was like she would literally be driving me all around the country. Like it could be 5 nights a week to go to different football matches, football trainings. Even if it was a training that was an hour and a half away and another parent was going, she wouldn't just like send me off with them. She'd want to go herself. If it was a school game where we were getting a bus to the game, and it could be like, these could be up the country, like 5-6 hours up the country, there might be like 2 moms on the sideline. She'd be one of them. No matter where the game was, like she was there. There might be no other mom on the sideline. She was there. So if you have someone who's willing, like not just to say things to you when it's easy, but who's willing to do anything for you, like genuinely anything. I could ask this lady for the shirt on her back and she would give it to me, not a question. There was also a time, so a funny story. This is gas, this is not that long ago. So I went traveling with my friends just before COVID, just before the pandemic, to Vietnam, Australia, and New Zealand, and was like, we spent all of our money, like, and just decided like it's gonna be worth it. Let's do it. I came back with like a credit card debt because we were just so YOLO on the trip. This was like this was like 4 years ago, less than 4 years ago. So just before the pandemic hit. And I came back like really, really broke, and I did not have much money, and I was heading back to my job. So I'd taken a career break, and I knew I'd have money coming in a month or two. So that's why it was okay to be so YOLO and to like max out a credit card. And while we were away, like myself and Tommy had just started going out before we went traveling. So while we were away, Tommy had booked like a trip for us to go to Budapest for Valentine's when I had come back. So it was like a few weeks after I'd come back, but we got paid once a month. So I hadn't got my first paycheck yet, and I had no money to go to Budapest. And I was telling my mom, and I was like, oh my God, mom, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I'm just not going to be able to enjoy this trip. And my mom, like, so this is me at like 23, 24 maybe. My mom put £500 in an envelope and posted it to London to me from Ireland in like a small brown envelope that could easily have been like ripped open and 500 cash pounds taken out. So she went to the bother of going to the bank, converting euros to pound, posting it to me so that I could go on a trip to Budapest after just being traveling for 3 months and spending all my money. Like another parent might be like, what the hell did you just do?
Oh man, I really wish I could meet your mum. She just sounds like an absolute legend and so, so good. And I think that's something for a lot of us, is like, well, I've always had a very kind of different upbringing, and like I think from your mum, like my goal is to make a lot of women really like your mum, where you just have belief that anyone can do anything if they really put their mind to it. And it just shows how little girls can grow up with this completely different, fearless mindset. And I think
Totally.
it's what she's done.
And like, I guess just to add to that story, like this is not a lady who has who has £500 to be dishing out to people, like either. Like I don't know, like where, like she but like she would find that for someone else, and she'd never spend that money on herself, like is the thing. So, and like, I think she just knew that like, she'd probably be telling me, oh, like, enjoy yourself while you're away. You're going to be working for the rest of your life. And she knew I'd have another paycheck coming. So there was never like a negative thing, but like, she'd find that to provide for a child who was actually 24. Like, even though like she'd never in her life do it for herself. She wouldn't go on holidays herself, like.
That's amazing, isn't it? And I think that's just the thing, isn't it? It's like once you're like, my mum still thinks I'm like, I'll take my mum for dinner, and I'll be like, I really want to like take you for dinner. You've done it for me for years, and she feels really uncomfortable about it. I'm like, Mum, I'm 34, like I'm an adult. You had me at like, she had me at like 24 or something. So you're like you were an adult when you were 34. Let me pay for you. But she does still think I'm a little girl, which is nice. But yeah, I like treating her. But no, thank you for sharing that with your mum. And like, I guess to kind of finish up then, like what's next for you, like for the remainder of this year, like maybe anything that you're kind of doing, what have you got planned for the rest of the year for you and Tommy?
Yeah. So like I said, I'm not setting any performance goals just yet, but I hope to be in the next few months. And if I can, I'd love to be getting back running and setting a next marathon goal or whatever. I am staying in Dubai now for the next 2 months. We've made the decision to go home to Ireland for the summer because it was a bit too hot here last year. So I'm spending 3-4 months of the summer at home in Ireland. Don't have an exact plan for after that. Might come back to Dubai, but we're like playing it like by month to month at the moment. So we'll see what the crack is then. Looking forward to, we're having a meet up with our clients in June. We're having one in September. So they're always big dates in the calendar for us. Next like big goals for us like is to grow our team. We're hoping to bring on board a new coach, and we're kind of in the process of that at the moment. And yeah, just keep improving everything that we're doing. We want to be able to provide the best service and like just like continue to help our clients and have a bigger and bigger impact on people. And yeah, I think that's what's in the pipeline at the moment. And yeah, just we're loving what we're doing at the moment. So just to keep getting better and better at it.
Yeah, and it's absolutely amazing what you guys are doing, and you're helping so many people and changing so many lives. And sometimes as coaches, you do forget to see that. And when you see them in person, it is amazing, isn't it? When you actually get that opportunity to see everyone. So I'm sure you'll look forward to some amazing events this year. And for anyone like maybe listening to this, I always encourage everyone listening, if they've got any questions or if anything's really stood out for them that's helped them, we'd love to hear from them. So you're happy for anyone to message you, and where would they find you?
Absolutely. So I am most active on Instagram. My Instagram handle is at Claire_O'Sullivan_coaching. And I'm so happy to answer questions. And I just love chatting to people and connecting with people and talking all things life and health and fitness. So message me at any stage. And thank you so much for having me on today. I really enjoyed the conversation. And I just know Lead Her is going to go from strength to strength now as well. So I'm excited to be watching on from the sidelines as well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing your story. And like you just said as well, like we are just normal people, and like Instagram and online can be quite lonely sometimes. Like we love hearing from people, and we love helping anyone. So just know both our inboxes are open if you ever want to have a wee chat about anything. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you so much for listening. But Claire, thank you for sharing all these stories with us today. I know you've helped a lot of people. We appreciate you, and we cannot wait to see you back up and running, hopefully next year, and bossing some marathons again.
Thank you so much. I can't wait for it too.
Right, thank you everyone for listening, and I'll speak to you all soon.